Carmela, for the invitation and the nice presentation. So as Carmela said, in these minutes, I'm gonna share with you let's say the basic of innovation procurement, and I will refer to, first of all, what is innovation procurement? Second, I will focus on one of the modalities of innovation procurement, which is pre-commercial procurement. I will also refer to the IAFIP step-by-step methodology, which is a strong and accepted methodology for this kind of procurement. And I will also try to apply or explain how these aspects can be translated into the PREVENT PCP project. So first of all, I would like to ask you a couple of questions to, let's say, break the ice, no? And to start this presentation in a more dynamic way. So I would like to ask you if you are familiar with the concept of innovation procurement. So if you will be so kind to raise your hand and say, yes, I am familiar with this concept. I see only 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Okay, so it seems that some of you know what we are talking about, but probably others, they heard this concept, but they don't know what really means in practice. So for those of you who say, yes, I know what we are talking about, do you have any experience or have you participated in any way in an innovation procurement project as a buyers or supporting organization or in any other role? All in this one. Okay, well, that's enough. Okay, so let me give you a definition of what is innovation procurement, what we are talking about. And I always like to start referring to what is public procurement, of course, because at the end of the day, public procurement starts when a public buyer has a need and go to the market in order to satisfy that needs, to buy a product, to buy chairs, to buy tables, whatever product or service it needs. But in the case of innovation procurement, the need is for an innovative solution. So any of the solutions that are available, let's say, off the shelf, is good enough to satisfy that need, and we have to go to innovation. No? Ask the market to innovate for us. And we have and that's why we talk, when we talk about innovation procurement, about the development of deployment of innovative solutions, not only to satisfy the need that we have nowadays as a public buyer, but also the need that we think or we foresee that we'll have in the short or medium term. So we have this capacity to use innovation to satisfy needs that we know that they will appear soon. And we have two main modalities of innovation procurement. So the first one is pre-commercial procurement. So basically there are no solutions in the market and I have to collaborate with the private sector to develop that solution together through this procurement. And then on the other side, we have the public procurement of innovative solutions. So basically there are no solutions in the market that are available, but they are very close to the market, or they are in the market, but in very small quantity. And in this case, we can buy the product itself. And in this presentation, I will focus on pre-commercial procurement because it's the kind of procurement that we are implementing in this project. Okay, I'm missing one slide here. Yeah, okay, so in order to decide which of these two, let's say, approach we are going to use, we have to use the technical readiness level, which is this scale that you can see here. So basically, depending on the maturity of the technologies, we know which one we are going to use. For example, if we are in a range for TRL 3 to TRL 8, so basically, we have still to design a solution, to create a prototype, etc. Then we go for pre-commercial procurement. But if we have a product that is very close to the market in a TRL 9, then we use the public procurement of innovative solutions. How we reach that, let's say, decision? Well, also we need an extensive knowledge of the market. We have to interact with the market, research what is going on out there. I will refer to this later. And based on that, we can determine or identify which is the maturity of the solutions. Well, coming back to pre-commercial procurement. So as I say, pre-commercial procurement is a procedure that basically aims to or allows public buyers to buy research and development services. So we are buying the services to develop a solution that is not available in the market, and we know based in this research that we have done before that there is not going to be available soon. But we are not buying a product in this case. We are only buying the development of the solution, and this is very important to take into account. Pre-commercial procurement has a series of features that make it very special and very peculiar in comparison with the traditional procurement procedures. Because in this case, we have, and as you can see here in the screen, we have a procedure that is composed of several phases. Also, Carmela mentioned that usually we have a first phase that is the solution design. It's more a phase, let's say, on paper, on giving an idea of the project you want to build. Then we have a second phase, which consists on the development of a prototype, and a third phase, which usually consists of proving or trying this prototype in real conditions. So why is interesting this phase approach? Well, for several reasons. First of all, because as you can see here, we have more than one contractor. So usually, in a normal traditional procurement, you have one contractor, you award one contract. But in this case, you have more than one contractor and you award several contracts. And the idea is that in phase 4, we have, let's say, a minimum of 5-6 contractors. Then we will select some of these to go to phase 2. And also some of these will be selected to phase 3, ideally a minimum of 2. Why? Because we try to ensure that from the very beginning until the end of the procedure, we have a good competition between the contractors. And this is good for the public buyers in several ways. First of all, because they put pressure on the providers. They say, okay, be careful, you have competitors. So you have to give your best to develop the best solution within of course, the time and the price that we agreed on in the contract. Also because a problem that you usually have, especially when we talk about technologies, is the vendor locking, no? This dependence of one economic operator, of one contractor. Well, in this case, no. In this case, we avoid that because we have a minimum of 2 contractors going until the end. And you don't put, as a public buyer, all your eggs in the same basket because you say, okay, I'm buying something new. I know if one of these solutions doesn't work, I still have others that may work. So it's a very, let's say, safe in some way approach for the public buyer. Of course, it also takes a lot of risk, no? Another characteristic or feature is that we have a risk-benefit sharing between the public buyer and the contractors. So both the risk and the benefits are shared. And a very clear example is the distribution of the intellectual property rights, because it's very clear that when we talk about the research and development, we always have intellectual property rights. Okay, who is gonna be the owner of these rights? Well, as a general rule, in order to foster the participation and competition, the technology vendor is gonna be the owner of the intellectual property rights that generates during the PCP. Of course, the public buyer also needs to receive something in exchange. And usually it receives the license to use the solution free of charge and for an indefinite period of time. And in some cases, even to give license to other public buyers, but that's something else. And very important here, a clear separation between the procurement of these research and development services and the procurement of the final solution. So again, here we only buy the development of a solution, but not the solution itself. Imagine that we have a final product and as a public buyer, we want to buy that product. Well, we have to start a new procurement procedure. Well, legal framework. I know everybody hates, as a general rule, the legal framework, but there is a reason why I'm making a reference to this here. And it's because of this legal framework that we can use pre-commercial procurement in a very flexible way and adapting it to the needs of each case. In the European Union, we have the European Public Procurement Directive, which is a set of rules that are applicable at EU level and then transposed to the different member states. And these directives basically regulate everything. Which procedures we have to use, how to conduct the different procurements based on the circumstances, how to select the tenders, etc. But in this case, this procedure falls outside the scope of these directives. So all these rules don't apply in this case. So as you can imagine, it gives you a lot of flexibility. However, it doesn't mean that the public buyer can do what it likes. Of course not, because we have still some principles that probably you're familiar with that they have to apply in every case. The transparency, no? Everything has to be published properly. Equal treatment, so giving the same opportunities to all the providers, no? You cannot favor ones against the others. Non-discrimination, the same, very close to equal treatment. And proportionality, basically all the requirements that the public buyer asks has to be reasonable and cannot be excessively harmful for the contractors, no? For example, if I need an experience of 3 years, I cannot ask an experience of 9 years because it doesn't make sense. So I ask what I need. Also, the European Commission published in 2007 a communication explaining basically what is PCP and what are the main features, and especially what are the requirements that it has to comply with in order to be outside the directives, no? And also not constitute the state aid. So everything is regulated in general terms in this communication, but still it leaves room for flexibility. Okay, so now that we are here and you already heard from me the basic of what is this and how it works. So what are, in your opinion, the benefits of conducting such a procedure? No, for example, I'm thinking, I'm a public entity, I have a need. In this case, no, for example, in the case of PREVENT, I need to control the luggage that it has been unattended. I don't know how to do it. I go to the market, there is no solution that covers my needs 100%, what I can do? A PCP, exactly. So in this situation, what do you think that, what advantage can have a PCP for public buyers?
Off-the-shelf product, you can not only on it because a PCP or by way to very interesting question. Also conduct develop products by buying your research and development. It's useful to understand you have exactly what you want, and you must adapt your organization. You ask the market to adapt itself to your.
Mm-hmm. That's perfect. Basically, that's the whole point, no? Have a solution that really adapt to my needs. Because sometimes when you go to the market and buy a solution, you're not 100% sure that it's going to work. And then it happened that you buy this solution and it doesn't work. I lost my money and I have a solution that it doesn't satisfy me 100%. No? So what Armand say is very true. So in this way, I have a solution that I know that 100% is going to satisfy my expectations. Mm-hmm. Also, very interesting what he mentioned, the aggregation of the demand. No? So joining effort with other organizations, other public buyers across Europe that may have the same problem and solve it together. Mm-hmm. What else? Anybody else want to point out some benefit? Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Jan Politiek. I'm from Arriva Netherlands, Arriva Group, one of the observe the board members. I think the advantage, for instance, like partners like police, and they have the same solution with different players. So now they go to operators, and operator A has CCTV system A and B and C and D. So that helps a lot, I think. We saw already another good example from Barcelona. They have specifications for vehicles, but that's another topic. So it makes it, although I think there are 5 operators or 6 operators involved, what are the other doing now? Hopefully, we hope that they buy or use this concept. But for instance, we have front CCTV in rail. We use it, but our team, quality, health, safety, and security, with police think about the solution with ProRail, but we make our own specs. But so we're inventing the wheel, and perhaps we talk later on innovation, find some money, but that's another topic. So police forces, other partners, governmental, because you have in Europe some governmental owned public transport operators that are there. There are commercial operators. So there are 3 big players: authorities, operators, and police forces. We think have the most need. So that's also a benefit, I think.
Yeah, that's also indeed a very good point. You're fully right. And also, I would like to link that with the second question. So usually we think about the benefits that it entails for the public buyers, which are a lot, of course, as we're discussing. But what about the benefits that it may have for technology vendors or providers? And what you say, it's very interesting also, because having, like, let's say, common specifications is always very helpful for both parts, from the public buyer and from the market. So which benefits do you think that it may have this procedure for providers, if any?
The solution works, it's theirs.
Exactly. Exactly. So they receive money for developing a solution, and then they get the product. And probably, if everything goes well, they have a follow-up procurement in which several public buyers will buy that solution that is already mature. But yeah, that's a very good point. And we also have another advantage that we are gonna discuss here. So of course, for the public buyers, this PCP has several benefits. First of all, I mentioned is a procedure that is flexible, and it allows you to develop a product that it fits your needs, really. But it also, because we are talking about innovation, it also improves the quality and efficiency of the public services. It disappeared, the presentation, sorry. Okay. Also, allows obtaining better price. As I said before, we have competition, so we ensure that we have a good product and a competitive price. If you have only one contractor, well, of course, you have a price that you include in the tender. You request a specific price, but it's the only competitor, so you don't have that benefit. He's not gonna do better to save you money, let's say. And also, they reduce the risk of failure in a potential follow-up procurement, of public procurement of innovative solutions. So basically, even if the PCP is not successful 100%, it's a good lesson for the public buyers, because they have a very good knowledge of the market, of which products are available, which technologies, how are the dynamics of this market, what the market thinks about our project, our proposal. So we have a really good knowledge that we can use to start another procurement in the future. So it's not like we lose time and money. Well, of course, we want it to be successful, but if not, we still have a lot of lessons that we can use for the future. Concerning the benefits for the suppliers or technology vendors, well, what is very interesting about this procedure is that it's very, let's say, SME friendly and also startups friendly. What I mean with that? Well, in the traditional contract, the problem that we usually face is that the small companies, they don't have the capabilities to join the contract. No, they don't have the financial capacity, they don't have the professional capacity, the experience. However, in this kind of contract, because we start from the beginning in the designing a solution on paper, and we usually don't ask them to have commercialization capabilities, this company can grow together with the contract. So when the contract grows, and I'm referring to go from the phase 2 to the phase 1 to the phase 2 to the phase 3, the company can also grow itself together. So they don't have this barrier to participate in the contract. And it also can facilitate their incorporation to markets that are traditionally segmented or difficult to access to, thinking security market, defense market, health markets, which usually are open to big companies. But through this way, also the small companies can find their way into, and also find their way of their product more directly to the market. And also stimulates the company growth. And this is very interesting because in this project, actually, for the first time, we are experimenting or trying to prove how we can involve venture capital organization. And then my colleague Egli will talk about that. No, they are interested in investing in PCP or no, and under which conditions. And also we have examples of other projects of companies that after the PCP have received substantial investment and have grown considerably from being a startup to being a unicorn, not that they are called, so a big company with a lot of investment. And of course, at the end of the day, the main beneficiaries of everything is the citizens, no? Because the citizens are the ones that want to ensure that the taxes we pay, it will be properly used, not that the public buyers are spending the money in an unreasonable way. And also because indirectly these innovative solutions can help to tackle another issues, societal issues or environmental issues, etc. And of course, well, it also creates an advantage at European level in the race for being the more advanced in technological terms. Well, coming now to the methodology. For implementing an innovative procurement project, obviously having a strong methodology is key because we need to know exactly which are the steps that we have to follow. Otherwise, a public buyer say, okay, good, I want an innovative solution, what I have to do now? No, how I can develop the specifications, what I'm asking for, how can I request the market to do a solution that I don't know which solution is it yet. At European level, we have the IAFIP step-by-step methodology. IAFIP is the abbreviation for European Assistance for Innovation Procurement, which is an initiative from the European Commission to help contracting authorities that want to implement procurement, innovation procurement projects, and to provide assistance free of charge to them. So under this initiative, in CORVERS, as contractors of the European Commission, we have developed this methodology step by step, which covers all the different phases of a contract. So it covers the preparatory steps, which are crucial for the success of the project. Then it covers the selection of tenders and award of the contract execution, and even more. And I'm saying even more because, as I said before, in PCP, we have a lot of intellectual property rights involved. And of course, after the contract, we have to also keep an eye on what the contractors are doing with intellectual property rights. For example, if they have commercialization obligations or no, etc. And of course, always extract the lessons learned. Yeah. And now I'm going to give you an insight of how we apply all of this to PREVENT PCP, which is the project that we are discussing here today. So the goal of PREVENT PCP was already explained. So basically it's to buy together. So it's a cross-border project between different public buyers at EU level to deliver and equip public transport operators with solutions enhancing security, situational awareness through these different aspects. The timely automatic detection of potentially dangerous unattended items, the identification and tracking of perpetrators, and the advanced crisis management system. Carmela also mentioned these 3 phases, so I'm not gonna stop here. But as I said before, we have the preparatory phase, and then we have these 3 phases in which usually a PCP is divided. Concerning the preparatory phase, I think here it's important to dedicate a couple of minutes to say or to explain how we usually do it. So the first step was need identification. So basically, through this Prevent CSA, we conduct an exam of the needs of the different public buyers involved. We realized that they have this common need. And then the next step was assessing what is out there, what is in the market. There are solutions that already address this challenge or no, that address the challenge partially, which is the status of the market. And then when we have a clear image of the status of the market, we conducted an open market consultation. So basically we engage with the market to say, okay, this is what we found. Do you agree with that? Are we missing something? Also, this is our plans for the contract. So we are planning this timeline, this budget, this distribution. Do you agree with that? They are acceptable for you? So we kind of inform them about the PCP, but also gather their knowledge to feed our contract terms. And also important to do a calculation of the costs and the benefits. No, that's essential for every organization. How this is going to cost me, which benefit is going to entail in comparison with the actual situation. Then we also conducting a procurement strategy and a testing strategy, explaining how we are going to prepare this project from a legal and also from a more technical perspective. And we prepare the tender document and publish the tender document. So all of this is the preparatory phase, all the work that is behind this project. What specific advantages can we identify in this project? No, before I mentioned the general advantage, but now focusing on these lessons learned, what are the main advantages that we can extract? Well, first of all, it was already mentioned by Armand, one solution that fits your needs, gathering effort with other public buyers to make your position more strong against the market, no? Have this market power. Also help each other, not only in the benefits, but also in the risk. Help each other to minimize risk, share experience, share knowledge on the topic. Challenge the technology vendors to give you the best solution they can. And also create an atmosphere of trust. So in this case, we are cooperating very closely with the private providers. So it's important to generate some kind of climate of trust. So we are working together. Of course, we pay you for that, but we are a team. And as I said before, also gather information to understand the market and the potential solutions. Okay, which is the setup of the contract that we organize in this project? So basically, a PCP is conformed for a framework by a framework agreement, which is basically a contract that covers all the phases and sets also, let's say, the basic rules that they are gonna discipline the contract. And then we also have one contract per phase. So one contract for phase 1. Then the successful candidates that finish phase 1 will be invited to present an offer for phase 2. If they are selected, contracts are awarded again, and the same in phase 2 to phase 3. The ones who successfully finish the phase will be invited to present an offer for phase 3, and then they will sign the contract for phase 3. And the interesting part here is to take into account that this framework agreement and the contract for phase 1 will be signed together. In this case, we have in the phase 1 6 contractors. In the phase 2, we have 4 contractors that they are nowadays building the prototypes. And then it's estimated that in phase 3, we will have a minimum of 2 contractors. Yes?
This is R&D. Therefore, there is no guarantee that the solution is met. And I understand that the conditions for the acceptance were set at the start of the contract. So what happens, not specifically in this case, but in this kind of contracts, whenever you have just one or perhaps none of the contractors that is able to reach the acceptance tests of the phase 2 to 3, for instance. Have you ever found out? How do you solve that?
Well, yeah, that's very undesirable. And that's true that at the beginning of the procedure, you already set up the main conditions. However, we have still some margin to adjust some of the criteria for phase 2 and phase 3, as long as they are minimum adjustment. So in the case you mentioned, well, if this has happened, you have to stop the procedure. No, if you have phase 1, you have, imagine, 6 candidates, and it happens that none of them has successfully complete the phase 1, well, you did something bad also as a public buyer, no, in terms that you haven't properly formulate the requirements or the different KPIs. Well, you have to stop. You don't have technology vendors that go to the next one, to the next phase. Mm-hmm. In the case, I don't know if you also refer to that, in the case that we only have one contractor for phase 1 already, no, we don't have competition from the beginning. Again, we have to stop and we have to think about other procedure, negotiated procedure, one-to-one. We have to formulate in a different way, but this is not working.
The point was mostly at the end. At the start, I mean, doing a solution design is relatively easy if you have good researchers. Yeah. Doing a prototype is usually as well feasible. The challenge comes into the operational validation when you have to confront generalization. And this certainly makes it much tougher. So just...
No, actually it's a very good point, because you are fully right. I mean, we have several solutions, so you are hoping that, of course, if not all of them work, some of them will work. But if we face the situation that at the end of phase 2, we don't have any solution that is working, yeah, that's a problem indeed. Yeah, what we can do, obviously, is not like we lost all the time, because you know, the product has been partially developed. Then you can think about you know, which mechanism you can implement to solve that situation. But yeah, within the PCP, it's tricky.
Question. So it can be that there is no solution.
It can be
not working.
It can be.
It's always a risk with this sort of PCPs. Okay.
Yeah.
But your experience with 50% are well done, or to give, it's difficult to say, of course.
No, I mean, in most of the projects, you reach the minimum and you are able to implement the project until the end. But of course, there are some cases in which I haven't had the experience that, you know, as the colleagues say, no, that in phase 2, suddenly we don't have any successful contractor and we cannot implement phase 3. But of course, it's something that it may happen. Okay. But again, that's why it's so important, the preparatory phase. Because if you work on that, you have information, you talk to the market is going to say, no, you know, these conditions are not feasible. This is not realistic. And then you say, okay, I have to change them. Of course, if the market tells you that and you go ahead with that, that's your risk, no? But that's why it's so important to invest time, effort, and money, of course, in preparing the contract, because there are risks involved.
And whilst I come there, I would also like to add that it's more, the bigger risk is at the first phases, either phase 0 and 1, because once you have an amount of organization that answered your tender, then you work together to go to the next phase. So it's very hard, I think, that you won't be able to go from phase 2 to phase 3, because you work all together towards the point. If that happens, it means that there is an issue with the technology, for example. It's not something fixed.
Thank you. My question is at the operational validation stage that you just have one. So some of our requirements are very specialist, especially in security. So we could start with 6. We could go to phase 2 with 4. but actually only one meets the criteria for whatever reason. You're saying that there needs to be a minimum of 2 for operational validation, but 1 has a product that might work. So what happens there? Do we come away from the PREVENT PCP and start a different process, or do we just go, well, let's stop? That would seem silly. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Well, I mean, that's a very good question. The minimum of 2 is to ensure the competition until the very end, of course, because if you can validate 2 solutions, you know, the success rate is more important than if you can only validate 1. If you only have 1 that complies with all the requirements, of course, you are not going to throw away all the procedure because you only have 1, because you have competition through all the different phases. So you go ahead with the 3rd one. And here we have to take into account what I said before. We are not buying anything. We are just developing a solution. So, well, we go ahead with that one. We close the procedure. If we want to open a new procedure to buy the solution, this one is not going to be, let's say, favored. It's not going to have preference. It's an open procedure for everyone, the next one. You know what I mean? So in the follow-up, of course, this contractor generally will have some kind of preference in terms that is already more expert in the technology because he developed it, but any other company can also participate.
So I also have a question, Michael Zistik from Wiener Linien. So for me, or in my perspective, there are like 3 scenarios. Scenario number 1 is I have a need as a company, and I have a solution on the market covered by 1 or several companies, which fits exactly my needs. So then I don't need PCP actually. Yeah. The second one is I have a need, and I have several companies, but they are not covering it perfectly. But I still can discuss with them if the solution which they have can be in some way adjusted to my needs. So I still don't need PCP. No. And the first scenario, and that's actually where the PCP, that's the most, the value added of the PCP is I have an idea or I have a need which is not covered at all on the market. Exactly. So then it let's say comes into force with the PCP procedures. So that's basically the sense. And then I also pay that as a company, or we share a cost, whatever. It's a question of the contracts then. But then that's actually the reason for a PCP. Is that correct? Yeah, it is fully correct. Yeah, just put it very clearly. So if we have a solution, no, as you say, that it doesn't cover all the functionalities, or it covers them in some way, or probably it has been tested in another, I don't know, in health, for example, and we want to implement it in security, no? Just imagine. Then, of course, we have the public procurement of innovative solutions, and we also have the possibility of doing a prototype testing, no, and saying, okay, I know that you have that solution. I'm not sure that solution works for me. So we do a one-to-one contract in which I'm going to try your prototype, your solution. And then I decide if I'm going to buy it in another procedure or not. But it's a good way to know if it's working or not working. But in this case, we already have a solution that is quite mature, very close to the market, or even in the market, as you mentioned, and therefore we don't need a PCP. Shall I continue, and perhaps other questions?
You can go on, and then we will take other questions further down. Yeah.
So another question that is also very interesting about this project is artificial intelligence. No, from a legal perspective, this is something that is still very mature. And of course, probably you're aware that there are many principles that regulate artificial intelligence at EU level, also developed by international organizations. But there is always a lot of controversy about that because, you know, which is better than the other, who favors really these principles. And some years ago, a couple of years ago, the European Commission approved a proposal for an Artificial Intelligence Act, which is the reference we have and we use in this project. Hopefully it will be approved soon. For now, it's a proposal, but we use these requirements and we implemented them as part of Annex 4 of the request for tenders. What I mean with this? Well, that every offer that came for this PCP had to comply with these requirements to control and regulate artificial intelligence solutions. So first of all, they have to include a general description of the artificial intelligence system, what is the purpose, which is the interaction, the relevant software, the relevant hardware, etc. The elements of the AI system and the process to build this system, everything has to be perfectly explained. Also, how we are going to monitor the system, a detailed description of the risk management as well, a description of any change made to the system through its life cycle, etc. So basically what we want here is explain me what is the system, how you're going to build it, which are the components, and more especially how you are going to control it. Because the problem we have, especially in the case of machine learning, is how we can control that technology. Because it's a technology that learns sometimes independently. And we have, from a legal perspective, to have the mechanisms to control it, no? And it's very difficult, very controversial still right now. But with these requirements, we at least safeguard that they know what they are doing and they can explain what the solution is doing. And with that is all. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope it was useful for you. And if you have any other questions, happy to address them.
I'll go pass the microphone.
AI Act, I suppose we are going to discuss that further, but it says even some more. So it says, for instance, that you cannot use any kind of biometric system unless you have the specific authorization of a judge. This is one of the toughest ones. So I'm going to be interested in how the PREVENT PCP is dealing with that. And the second thing, you mentioned that there is, you have seen at least a startup becoming a unicorn with this kind of project. Can you share this example?
Yes, of course. Yeah, I can share with you later on. I can share it with Carmela. But just to give you now some kind of background. So basically, this was a company that creates some kind of robots that eliminate any kind of germs, bacteria in the hospitals. So they were like a small robot. And yeah, it cleaned really the environment and make it aseptic, let's say. So this was a PCP. That was the result of the PCP. It was a Danish company, a startup. When COVID came, it started to receive a lot of orders from China, from Europe, from US, and also a lot of investment from venture capital organizations, let's say external investment. And it kept growing until now it's a, let's say, very successful company, one of the, as I say, unicorns. But the PCP, the funny thing is that it was before the COVID and received a lot of investment. It was very successful. And then when COVID came, of course, it was a boom. But I will share with you more information and links, of course.
Any other question? Do have one. So after the phase 3, when you finalize and you have your prototype, and then the buyer decides to go out with a tender to buy the solution. So how do you word or how do you build that tender to avoid bias that can favor the prototypes that you already have? Because of course they have what you need, more or less, but you want to open it to other organizations as well. How do you do that?
Yeah, that's the difficult part, because you have to be you have to be very careful on how you define the tender specifications. So probably what you can do is focus more on the functional requirements, what you need, and not so much probably on a specific solution. Instead of saying, I want this solution with these characteristics, and you have to explain for what you want the solution to do. Of course, if you already know which solution you need, you're always gonna go in that direction. But it may happen that other providers can also provide solutions that comply with these requirements and even give you more. So you have to try to be aseptic and keep it, let's say, as neutral as possible. But it's not an easy job for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, this is your point of view. I know a little bit of CORVERS. I was in Den Bosch a few years ago. I'm Dutch, so that's easy. But it's rather complex material. I was curious at SNCF or Paris or Lisbon, how they think. As we are an operator, we don't have a control room. We have control rooms, but not a CCTV control room. We are developing an OCC as with cameras, so we are developing it. But at least for me, it's curious at what, perhaps if we have time, share some 1 or 2 glimpses of what are the status and how enthusiastic are they still or not.
To go, yeah.
If I may.
Thank you, Beatriz. On the contracting side, you go to an open tender after the PCP, so you have probably 1 or 2 winners, hopefully, of this process, and you may have external bidders. The people that have been in this process cannot charge you for the licenses, right?
No, I mean,
they cannot.
In this case, no.
In this case, not, because it's part of the contract side, and therefore you make you issue a tender. In this tender, somehow there is a difference between bidders, because one part of the bidders cannot charge for licenses, and the other part, well, they rather do or not. I mean, it's their decision. Is that putting any kind of a stress on the legal procurement conditions?
Yeah, I mean, the distribution of the intellectual property rights, it can also be the same in the case of the PPI, of the Public Procurement of Innovative Solutions. So it always depends what you ask for in the tender document. But of course, yeah, if you have intellectual property rights that are previous to the contract, yeah, it may happen what you say, not that they request a payment for that. Yeah, I don't really know exactly if it puts pressure on the contracting authorities. I believe some pressure it will put, because of course it's an extra money you have to pay. But of course you also have to take into account that the contractors or the bidders should adapt to the conditions established in the request for tenders. So that means that we have a maximum budget. So within that budget, of course, you can include the intellectual property rights, the license, but still you cannot, ask more money than the one that we are offered. I don't know if it is clear or no.
I just imagine the schedule of budget schedule. Yeah. Usually you have a license. So it's actually really depending on the project. Asking for the analytics to relatively crisis management. Most part of the contractors are bringing some existing managing a crisis management system, which means that at the end, of course, we may have some free license for using analytics, but for using the crisis management system, no, because this is a previous tool that was already existing, so we have to pay if we want to use it. But for the algorithm, the first version, of course, because then for the evolution, we will have to pay the license, a new license for new version. But at the end, yeah, if we want the algorithm inside the crisis management system, we will pay the crisis management system, but not the algorithm. So it's a complex model of, yes, exactly.
Yeah, and if I may build up on that, when you present your offer as a technology vendor, you have to explain in detail the cost that is going to implement. For example, the cost of the software, the cost of the hardware, the cost of the license, the cost of personnel. So everything has to be detailed. So yeah, it's a kind of part of the offer you are submitting already.
So keep in mind that from the side of the tech, we invest a lot in the project, and even if we are not developing ourselves the solution, lots of tools help the contractors to do analytics, and the topic is the data. Participating in PREVENT PCP is an excellent opportunity for contractors to get some data, real data coming. It's impossible in Europe. So we are bringing that for free in the project. So then we expect also some participation.
maybe I can say a word to that, because I fully understand your constraints now on that, because that was also one of my questions. I think we should, when we're thinking about PCP and the open tender afterwards, we need to separate it completely, actually. So we are having a contract for the PCP procedure, and the tricky part will be then to prepare the contract as good as it gets, not to have a smooth open tender procedures afterwards, actually. So that it have to be separated. And then you have a clean procedure for the open tender. If you have it clean in the first part for the PCP, then everything concerning legal rights, etc., and licenses is already clear at the end of the PCP procedure. And then you you have an open tender, and it's like you're starting a new game. It's a new ball game, but with clear boundaries. Let's say everything is clear before, because of a good contract and a clear contract in the PCP. That's how I would understand it at the moment.
Thank you. It's not a question, it's a comment. From the public buyer perspective, the PCP procedure is interesting because we can obtain a solution designed for our needs. But my small experience said to me that we have a lot of theoretical information that we need to confirm in the process. I'm talking about when we have proposals, we have a lot of information that are given to us to choose that I don't know if it is correct. At least in the first phase, we need to verify certain parts of the proposals. Normally, the concurrents said that they have a part of our needs. We need to see if it is true. We don't see that. We agree on the information. So my comment is, in order that this type of procedure need to be adapted in order that we can begin to verify the information that we received a little bit earlier. Thank you.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, and I think that's one of the keys, no, for a PCP. Basically, having the expertise in-house, no, that helps you to analyze if it's good or it's according to your needs or not. And this is not only legal or experience, but mostly technical. So having a strong team that can help you to assess this is essential, in my opinion.
No, we were noting that the question that Jan had posed was not addressed. So maybe the buyer want to. Can you repeat the question?
Well, we had from at least from CORVERS some theoretically how it works, but what are the operators are thinking? Are they still enthusiastic? I'm very curious as an operator. Do they still believe in it and what they see? Okay, this is a long process, I know, but Paris or France or I think Lisbon is also in the picture. What do you think, and what is, if I may ask at least?
So we go to Paris.
Yeah, from a SNCF perspective, so SNCF is a the French national railway company. We are very enthusiastic and still very optimistic on this kind of project. So far, we are currently, and it's also a good point for us because we are currently testing the 4 prototypes in PREVENT PCP project. We saw that some solutions are working, some are more difficult, but we are at the very beginning of the testing, so contractors still have a chance to make some improvement before the end of the phase 2. And yes, actually, it's logical because this is we are making some concrete work on something we are working on for a long time ago, because the topic of PREVENT PCP is video analytics, and video analytics is something that SNCF is investigates for a long time. I mean, we start working on that since 6 or 7 years ago. trying to make some proof of concept or things like that. And through PREVENT PCP, and especially on the topic of unattended items, it's something we tested, I think, 5 years ago, some algorithms to detect unattended items. It clearly didn't work at all in public transport environment because, okay, counting the number of people or simple algorithms are working, but detected unattended item, I mean, not only make some detection of an object, but make a link between an owner and items, and then being able to track the owner without using biometric data or with biometric data, like using facial recognition, and combine all those features and all those algorithms in one algorithm, one solution. I mean, it's very complex. It's something that without PREVENT PCP, I'm pretty sure that none of the contractors that are currently working on that should have worked, or not in the way we expect them to do. So far we can see some good results. And yes, we started to discuss this topic in 2018. We're 5 years after, and I think we are in the good way to have some good solutions.
I can add something else. Usually, RATP was involved in different research and innovation projects, and we pay for that. So we contract with companies, we spend a lot of money, we bring them knowledge, and we often get nothing in return. Often the product is not used in our company, so all the benefit is for industry. PREVENT PCP, it's very good for us because the economic model is good for us because we, as other companies, we don't have a lot of money to spend. It's a win-win project. We have benefits, contractors have benefits. We can do very interesting things. We provide a playground very interesting for industry. And in return, we can share knowledge and get knowledge from contractors. So it's very interesting. If we don't have PCP, we couldn't, today we cannot go to research innovation projects. Very difficult for us.
Thanks. Maybe building upon that and going back to Jan's question, what you're saying is basically PCP is another way to invest in research, and for your specific needs, you're getting much better results than compared to the traditional way you've been putting your money in research, other way around. It's very good.
No other question, no other answer in this case? Okay, let's see. I think, Beatriz, you arrived at the end of your presentation.
Yes, I am. I finished. Yes. I just come back to that slide for the discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's currently 3:15, so we are a bit early, but no, we're not, because we have another raised hand.
Just for me, again, to understand, because you once mentioned that there is a part of the performance in a PCP procedure which is already being covered. So I don't want the numbers of what has been invested from whom now. I just want to understand the financial structure. So there are services which are being covered already because of whatever, European Union or as a rough idea. But because I think you said some of your input into the project is already, let's say, free of charge for the companies, or is it that everything has to be covered? So is it like a partly funded by whatever, God or whoever, or is it everything in the end still covered by the company which is triggering the procedure?
Well, probably didn't explain that properly. I was referring, when I was saying free of charge, I was referring to the EAFIP initiative, the European Assistant of Innovation Procurement. So basically that has nothing to do with this, but is the framework in which this methodology has been elaborated And basically, it's like an initiative in order to say, okay, you are a public buyer, you want to implement an innovation procurement project. So I give you some hours of free legal economic advice in order to build your case, in order to prepare or support you in the tender document preparation, anything you need. And of course, there are also another initiative like creating awareness, knowledge sharing, building capabilities, etc. So this is something different. In the case of PREVENT PCP, because we are in the case of an EU-funded project, so basically we have budgets for conducting the PCP. So in other cases, there are other projects in which the PCP is not covered 100%, but only a percentage, and the other percentage has to come from the public buyers. And of course, there are situations as well in which you conduct a PCP, but the truth is that this budget is probably not enough to cover all the work of the contractors, but for strategic reasons, like Armand said, it's very interesting for them to participate, to get access to the data, to get knowledge. They, in any case, bid and perform the contract, because it's always a win-win situation. So there are many ways of organizing this, but in this case, it's funded by the European Commission.